Hello, my name is Lauren Bass, and I am the Recruitment and Marketing Coordinator for the graduate school at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Today, I will be discussing how to design a competitive graduate school application. The tips and tricks provided in this presentation are beyond what Google can provide. The best part about the information provided today is these are insights provided to me by faculty members who review applications. The first note that you should know is when you're preparing to go to graduate school, the person that you meet at graduate fairs or someone that you engage with like myself, I recruit for our graduate programs, but because I'm not a faculty member of those programs, I don't review the applications. So you want to make sure you're clear about who's reviewing your applications and how to set up your application. So why is this presentation even relevant for you? Two reasons. One, it's important to understand what faculty members expect from a serious applicant. If a program that you're interested in has on average 1,200 applications, but maybe it's cohort style and they can only admit 25 people, the information provided today will help you go from being in the general population to being an actual strong candidate for one of those 25 slots. The information that I'm giving you today comes directly from faculty members who review applications. They tell me what makes a candidate strong enough for them to say, yes, I will offer them a spot in my program. Also, this presentation is important because it helps you understand how to determine if a program fits your needs. It's very important to understand that although an institution may have the program that you're looking for, you should already know what your career goals are to determine if that institution will be the best fit for you. So let's get into a little bit about fit. Here are my top 3 tips when it comes down to understanding fit for a program at an institution that you want to apply for. First, I'm going to always recommend reach out to the faculty members within that program as well as graduate students. That way, everyone can share their experiences of what you should expect from the program, as well as the graduate students can share their personal experiences as a student in that program. A big thing to pay attention to, if you reach out to a program as a prospective student and they are not replying to your emails, you have to reach out to multiple people, you get the runaround, that could be indicative to what your experience would be like when you get into that program. But if you reach out to a program and they're very great with replying and keeping you informed, that also is indicative to the quality that that program will provide you in your education once enrolled. Speaking to current graduate students allows you to see what their experiences are, how they're navigating the program, and also asking questions about how the program is helping with their job search or their career opportunities. Are they able to network with alumni from the program? So it's important to speak to faculty members as well as graduate students when you're considering what program you're interested in applying to. Next, your personal statement is a narrative about your career as a professional. You want to know a lot about who you are, where you're trying to go, and how that degree is going to help you. When you put all of that into your personal statement, whether it be essay questions or a 2-page essay, is really going to help the faculty members understand the value that you can bring to their program, and it's going to help you understand the value in which that program will help you in your career. So please keep in mind that a personal statement is not so much about who you are overall. It definitely is very targeted and specific to who you are as a professional and where you're trying to go in your career. Tip number 3, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. My biggest advice would be attend as many graduate school fairs as possible, network with recruiters as much as possible, and really have an understanding of maybe your top 5 schools that you want to apply for instead of your top 2. Applying to graduate school can be lengthy in terms of the amount of time that you have to dedicate to your applications, but it is very worth it. It's worth the time and the energy that you have to put in. So don't just apply to 1 or 2 applications. You don't know how many students they can admit based on the program size and the direction in which they're taking that program. So I would say a strong number would be 5 if possible. When it comes to speaking to recruiters, speaking to faculty members, you can always ask for application fee waivers because applying to graduate schools is not cheap. Each institution has an application fee, but when you attend graduate school fairs, there are opportunities to receive application fee waivers, and that can save you on the financial tip. It's important to understand that your graduate school application is a holistic package. Back in 2011, I applied to graduate school and I didn't get in the first time. I didn't get in because at that time it was only GPA and test scores. Well, I'm not a great test taker and my GPA wasn't strong at all. I didn't get in, but I knew what was wrong. Like I knew what I needed to do in order to look like a better candidate. What happened to allow me to get into graduate school was my program went from just GPA and GRE to a holistic package, which allowed me to submit a resume, letters of recommendations, a personal statement, and from there, viewing me as a complete person rather than just the academic side allowed me to get into my graduate program. And so most programs these days require more than just your GPA and your test scores, which actually works in your benefit. So please be mindful and pay attention to each part of the application process because no one thing can get you in, but just having a strong total application is very important in terms of making you stand out above the rest. Now, let's talk about some self-reflection. You have to do self-reflection in order to write a strong personal statement. What are your interests? Are you into maybe 2 or 3 different topics? Maybe you're going to be looking for a program that values interdisciplinary studies. Do you have a concentration that you're specifically going to? It's very important to have that solid foundation of your grades and your test scores and your resume. But in addition to the solid foundation, it's key to understand your interests and how you plan on using that graduate degree to propel your degree or your opportunities as a professional. You also need to keep in mind who can write strong letters of recommendation. Anybody can write a letter of recommendation for you, but a strong letter of recommendation talks about your analytical skills, your ability to do teamwork, talks about your critical thinking skills. There are some complex details that faculty members are looking for when it comes to letters of recommendation. So if you're applying to a program in STEM, you might not want your Spanish professor to be one of the top 2 recommenders. But if you have 3 letters of recommendation, with the third being an optional, then your Spanish professor would be a great candidate to discuss how well you did and some other attributes that they learned about you when you took that class. Or maybe you're going into an area where you're doing research in a lab. So even though the professor over that lab is not someone whose class you've taken, they can write a strong letter of recommendation for you. Or maybe you even have a part-time job and now your supervisor can write a strong letter of recommendation for you. But it's very important to have this time to truly evaluate everything before you begin your applications. Now that you've done some self-reflection, it's time to actually evaluate the programs in which you're looking to apply for. So I like to kind of narrow things down by, if 5 schools have the program that you're interested in, do you have a specific concentration that you're interested in? If so, maybe only 3 of those 5 institutions have that concentration. So now you know these can be my top 3. What is it like when it comes down to matching a student with the faculty members? Um, on most program websites, the faculty members have a bio. It tells you their background, the research that they do, where they receive their degrees from. It's important to pay attention to faculty's bios, because sometimes in your personal statement, you may have the ability to address 2 faculty members that you would enjoy working with during your graduate program. I definitely would say stay away from just saying one person, because if that one person is not able to take on a new student, then you could be ruling yourself out from an opportunity to be admitted into that program. So if you're going to say, I would love to come to your program because I'm interested in the work that faculty member A and B does, then that kind of gives some leeway in case one person doesn't have the ability to work with a student, but the other person does. Again, understanding if a program has interdisciplinary studies, how they match up students for research or just working. All programs, a student has to have a faculty advisor. In my graduate program, we were cohort style, so we all had the same advisor, and that's how it worked out. And I enjoyed it, but not all programs are like that. So you do have to evaluate the program to understand if it's going to be the best for you. About this personal statement, you get 2 pages, and in your 2 pages, you must be direct, intentional, and interesting. I say keep it to 2 pages because if a program gets 1,200 applications, if they get 500 applications, if they get 5,000 applications, and you submit anything beyond 2 pages, it is very likely that your application will not be reviewed. So, in 2 pages, you should be able to detail the significance of that institution's program and how it can positively impact your career as a professional. A personal statement needs to be specific per institution. You should not be able to just copy and paste a school's name into your personal statement. If you're doing that, it's too generic and that's not making you a competitive applicant. So in your first paragraph on your personal statement, whoever's reviewing it should know what degree you're interested in, whether that's a master's or a PhD, the program that you're interested in, masters of social work, masters of computer science, masters of engineering. Maybe it's a PhD in physical therapy. So all of that should be very specific in that first paragraph. And then also you want to tie in a sentence about what your career goals are and how that degree will help. Then from there, you're kind of just elaborating and doing some storytelling, which is why I say be intentional and be interesting. Letters of recommendation. Your letters of recommendation can be the key to helping you get a yes. It could be the key from going from the maybe pile to the yes pile. And that's because the people writing your letters of recommendation are speaking about your abilities to be successful in a graduate program. Again, let's talk about your analytical skills, your critical thinking skills, your ability to work independently, your ability to work in a team environment. It's specific things that faculty members will be looking for. And when it comes to letters of recommendation, on average, you have to submit at least 2, but there are times where you're able to submit 3 letters of recommendation. When you ask someone to be a recommender for you, I always recommend providing them a packet. You should have your resume. You should have information about the program in which you're applying to. You should also have some information about you as a student in terms of the grades that you've made, your career goals, and how you're planning to to use this graduate opportunity to advance your career. You can provide the recommender with your personal statement if it's complete. But if it's not completed, that's okay. But give them as much information as possible so they can write a strong letter recommendation for you. If by some chance you're going into the same field as a family member, maybe you're going to medical school and you have a family member who's already a practicing doctor, do not have a family member write your letter recommendation. That is something that many faculty members always want me to emphasize. Do not have a family member write a letter recommendation for you. There are two types of graduate degrees. You have your master's and you have your doctorate. Typically, a master's degree can take 1 to 2 years to complete, and a doctorate degree can take about 4 to 7 years, based on what your research is going to be about. A master's is great for people looking to be practitioners. In 1 or 2 years, I'm going to practice in this field. A doctorate is great for people who are definitely strong on the research side, and it is more specialized than a master's degree. So it's very important to understand the difference between if you want the master's or if you want the doctorate. In STEM programs, many students can go straight from a bachelor's to a PhD program. You don't need the master's, or you can actually pick up your master's degree while you're in your PhD program. In more humanities programs, kind of like I work in higher education, I needed a master's degree before I could apply for a doctorate program. And so in my case, many of the doctoral programs required at least 3 years of work experience before I could apply. So it's also important to understand what programs require in terms of, is it an entry point that you need your master's degree to get into that next level? Or can you go straight into the doctorate program? And then when you look at job applications, they also tell you if a master's degree is preferred or a master's degree is required, if a doctorate degree is preferred or a doctorate degree is required. So it's important to know all of that information as you're preparing for graduate school. Here's a timeline, just giving some suggestions of things you should complete as a junior while you're in undergrad, as well as things you should complete as a senior while you're in your undergraduate program. I would like to say when you are a junior, it's best to begin taking your entrance exams if you have to take the GRE, the GMAT, the LSAT. It's best to take those things as a junior because then you can gauge if you're going to need to retake them to get higher scores, or if the scores you received your junior year were actually great for your application process. Most scores last at least 5 years. So if you're going to go into school right after undergrad, you don't have to worry about anything. But if you're planning to take a gap year, it's very important to pay attention to when you took the exam and when will it expire. I also recommend students take campus visits post-COVID um, as a junior so that you can start seeing, what the campuses look like, what the resources are that's available, and just really gauging the faculty and the students in those programs. You also want to begin researching external funding opportunities your junior year. As a senior, this is the time when you want to start obtaining those letters of recommendation, preferably as early as possible. You will rewrite or write your personal statement letter your senior year. If you need to retake any entrance exams, that's a great opportunity to retake those and begin to apply for the external funding. Just a little bit about the GRE. I'm not actually going to go in a lot of details right now, but there are 3 parts to the GRE. I recommend people begin applying for grad programs right now, and it's because many programs are waiving the GRE requirement. Even if you're not applying to start next fall, if you apply for a program or you begin your application soon, while they have those application fee waiver opportunities, as well as those GRE waiver opportunities, this can kind of save you some time in terms of testing. Again, it's important to know that your GRE is valid for 5 years, but more importantly, keep an eye out on the institutions that you're interested in, because across the board, many schools are eliminating the need to take the GRE and some other standardized exams. Right now, due to COVID, programs have been able to waive the GRE, but some are waiving it permanently in terms of eliminating that as a requirement for their application process. So whether you are a sophomore, a junior, or a senior, if you have your eye on a few graduate programs, pay attention to their website, pay attention to their social media, begin to build relationships with the faculty members so that you can stay abreast to will you even need a standardized exam to complete your graduate school application. Understanding your career goals. This is extraordinarily important in terms of that personal statement. Some programs actually do an interview. And so if you understand your career goals, this will also help you if you have an interview process with a faculty advisor. It's important to know what your career goals are so you can see if the program has a great alumni relationship. You can understand your career goals and be able to ask what's their job placement rate when it comes to students graduating from their program. It's important to, again, look at job postings before you are applying to graduate school to understand, is a graduate degree required to enter that field? Is a graduate degree required to advance in the field that you're looking to go into? All of that is important when it comes to understanding where you want to be. I don't necessarily want students to just think about the entry point, but also just thinking about 5 years into your profession or 10 years into your profession. How will this graduate degree help elevate your career opportunities? Selecting a program is important because right now you have the ability to be in the classroom full time. You can do a flexible program where maybe you're only in the classroom a few times per semester. Other times your classes are online. And then sometimes you can do a graduate program that's completely online. You have to understand the type of learner that you are so that you can best prepare yourself when you are creating your graduate school applications. I had not taken any online classes when I was in undergrad. So I knew when I wanted to do my master's degree that I needed to be in an in-person program. But as I'm preparing for my doctorate, I'm totally fine with doing it online now. I've had opportunities to do some online classes during my master's degree. So now I'm more comfortable with understanding how to pace myself, how much time I'm going to need to dedicate to my work. And as much as I love being able to sit in the classroom and hear everybody's perspective in terms of class discussions, I can also get that same energy in terms of virtual learning. Will you be going to school full time, or will you be going to school part time and remaining working as a full time professional? That's going to be important when you decide what program you want to do for graduate school, because if you are planning to have a job and go to school part time, then there are going to be some programs in which you can't apply for because they're going to require you to be in the classroom full time. So these details are very important when it comes to selecting your top programs to submit applications for. It's also very important to understand application deadlines. In most instances, you have a hard deadline, a priority deadline, or a rolling admission. If there's a hard deadline, that deadline tends to stay the same every year. So maybe the deadline is December 1st. No matter what, they will not accept applications after December 1st, but the next application cycle, that deadline will likely still be the same. If there is a priority deadline, meaning December 1st is the priority time, but they will still accept applications after that timeline. I recommend getting your application in by the priority deadline because in many times that's how they determine who they're going to give funding to, whether it be an assistantship, scholarships, things of that nature. Rolling admission, you have the ability to apply for that graduate program during regular registration, meaning it can be August and you submit your application, they review it, and you could be starting classes the very following week. So it's important to understand application deadlines in terms of a program's requirements and meeting those deadlines. Top 5 tips that you should know. 1, never, ever, ever ask what is the minimum score needed to be admitted into a program. You can ask the average score, but never ask the minimum score. So if a program that you're interested in still requires a standardized exam, if the website does not say the average GRE scores, the average LSAT scores, the average MCAT scores, then you can ask that, but never ask what the minimum scores are. You don't want anyone to think that you're just trying to get in. You want them to see you as a competitive applicant, as the scholar that you are. So how do you compare to the average scores that students in which they've admitted submit? Try not to ask questions that are already on a website. This goes very big in terms of showing that you've researched that program. Again, I've already discussed knowing the faculty bios, reading through that information, but also many programs have a FAQ section. Read the website as entirely as possible and try your best not to ask questions for things that have already been published on the website. Transcripts will be required from every institution that you attended. If you went to a junior college prior to the school you're at now, if you took college classes while you were in high school, please be prepared to submit your transcripts from every institution in which you attended. Try to go to open house events, campus visits. Even if things have to be virtual during this time, try to attend. But definitely when everything is back on terms of physical visits, I highly recommend going to take those campus visits. Last but not least, deadlines are very, very, very important. Again, deadlines can truly correlate with funding. And if you are applying to a doctoral program in STEM, many of those offer full funding, but either also in other programs that may not be full funding, you have graduate assistantships, research assistantships, teaching assistantships, scholarships. So deadlines are very important in terms of being eligible for funding. Here's a survey that I would greatly appreciate it if you can complete. This helps me understand how well this presentation is, that I provide new content that you were not aware of, and just how my presentation skills are. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. My email is my first name hyphen my last name at utc.edu. I also want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter as well as Facebook. I put information about our programs, our faculty members, funding opportunities. So it's a lot of information that goes out, and I would highly encourage you to check out our social media accounts.